What's up, Fit Life family? Today is the day where I get my testosterone test reviewed, and I'm very nervous. So let's hop out of this car, go check it out, and see if I was able to make any changes to my life. Came here a couple weeks ago to get my testosterone, or really just blood work done in general. Everyone should get blood work done. Do not skip it, especially as you age. But he surprised me by telling me that I was at the lowest part of the low spectrum on my testosterone, which took me by surprise. I've been taking a supplement to see if I can boost my numbers up. So we're gonna go back in the day, talk to Josh, and see what my numbers are looking like now and see where I can go from here. So let's go. Okay, so we're here at Optimize You with Josh, and last time I was here, Josh surprised me by telling me I had very low testosterone. Like, I'm supposed to be here and my testosterone was down here, and I just got back to thinking about it. Like I told you guys out there, I've been eating out of plastic containers, drinking out of plastic water bottles for the past 10 years. So he sent me out with a couple of things on my to-do list to change in my lifestyle to see if I can naturally boost my testosterone at all. What I've done so far, no plastic containers in my house. My wife about killed me for that. Obviously started taking that testosterone tea or whatever, what was it called? Masculinity. And only drinking filtered water from the aqua system, whatever the heck you want to call it. I went from eating 1,500 to maybe 2,000 calories a day to 3,000 to yesterday 4,000 calories. Wow. And I'm doing strength training. So like literally just almost maxing out every other day on major lifts.
Overall, did you feel better?
Yeah.
Okay. I think one of the things that we talked about to answer some of the questions, or that people may even have, why do you make lifestyle changes, right? And I think people need to know that there's endocrine disruptors, there's chemicals that we have in our diet and our food and our water, exposures from plastics, things like that, that in some ways, the best way to kind of think about it just makes life harder. It just makes we're swimming upstream in that we're trying to combat all these other factors. And so, especially in somebody who's young, when we're dealing with a testosterone level that's on the lower end of the spectrum, before somebody should jump on testosterone, are there other lifestyle factors that we should consider to address? And that's why we kind of had that plan, right?
Tell them real quick what the normal level of testosterone would be for someone in their 20s and 30s.
Well, that's relative because it's individualized, but in general, the range that we have from 19 to 75-year-olds is 264 to 916. So you got a wide range of age, wide range of numbers there. What I would suggest, pay attention to symptoms. So do symptoms kind of lead you to believe or think that your testosterone level is low? And then B, if I could envision if I'm in that reference range, if you're going to keep me in that range, I would say I want to be at the top of that range or the third of that range. So 700, 800 in that younger population of people. That would be ideal. Realistically, I don't see that, You're more common as far as just and that's unfortunate in that we have younger and younger patients dealing with lower and lower testosterone levels.
Yeah, actually, I went to go talk to my dad about that, and I was like, "What?" He's like, "My testosterone's fine. I'm above average." I'm like, "You're not even healthy. Like, what are you talking about?" I know. And it just blew my mind. I'm like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah, I actually did a podcast on declining rates of fertility, sperm counts, and testosterone from one generation to the next, and it's pretty staggering in general. So that's something you have to factor into nowadays. Is that younger patients are going to potentially present with more symptoms. Your level did not get better.
That's what I figured.
Now, I don't know, I don't think I would correlate it with those 2 days. Okay. I'm not saying it, could you have been a little bit better? Maybe, but it would have been marginal, But you declined by, 12 points from where you were.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, symptomatically, right? There was improvement. There was improvement in how you felt, your energy, your focus, your muscle mass. So to me, that's a big positive. It's, if you're going to look at that number and just be critical, I would say, well, I don't love where you're at.
You ever see anybody that comes in here that tries to do it naturally and they actually boost their numbers?
Majority of the time, it's things like this. It's the right call. Let me say that, even though it may be a little deflating for somebody to be like, golly, man, I did all these things and that number didn't budge. I still think it's the right call because you're young and what we're trying to accomplish is, can we move the needle positively for you by allowing your body to do it, right? Versus if I'm using testosterone, I'm taking your situation out of the equation, right? I'm not relying on your body to do it anymore. I'm now administering it from an outside source. So I think it's still the right thing. But the best I've ever seen from a change is probably a net 100 points positive.
But people look at me and they're like, that guy eats healthy, he works out all the time, like he lives the lifestyle, but it's low. What would be the reason for me being so low and then me putting all this effort into something like this and it not really working, I guess you could say?
So I would say, don't always chase the numbers, right? One of the first things I ask is, did you feel better? Yes, that's important. So don't lose sight of that. But secondly, why does it tend to happen? That's kind of a loaded question. Is it genetics? Perhaps. Is it still environmental? I mean, I think to your point, 10 years of, I've been doing this. Now I changed that for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. Okay, well, Rome wasn't built in a day. So is there a chance that as time goes on, unfortunately, and I think it's the right call to do all those things. I just think the battle feels a little overwhelming when it comes to environmental exposures. To be perfectly honest with you, 85,000 human-made chemicals in the world. You've got so many things that even in the best case scenario that we don't even know, what we're being exposed to, if that makes sense. And you can't escape it. I mean, that's the reality. And they mimic endocrine, they bind to receptors. They'll mimic an endocrine, inhibitor. And so there's just so many factors there. But I do think genetics play a role. We don't know, and this is again not uncommon. We don't know what your normal or optimal range ever was, because you're a little bit of a unicorn in that you still came in pretty young before you were overly symptomatic, as much as just like, I've got a few things here and there. Yeah. Most people don't have their testosterone checked in their 20s, right? Most people wait until they're 40, 50, and they're symptomatic, or their spouse tells them, hey, like something feels off here, like you need to go get checked out. So you don't have a baseline, and so, there are other secondary, but most of the time it's not a secondary issue. Some testicular issues, so if somebody's had a history of, testicular torsion or, something like that, from an anatomical standpoint. There's other things that are very much less common, like a pituitary tumor, which you would see on your labs as far as some markers. Which that's really, but that testosterone level would be. I mean, I've got a guy whose testosterone level was 26.
Wow.
Right. So yours is 300. Yes, that's low, but it ain't 26. So there's other things that can kind of play an important role as far as why those things occur, but I don't know that we'll ever know. Okay. To be honest with you, because I think it's so multi-factorial.
Mentioned a few minutes ago, you didn't know what my numbers were at first, so you don't have anything to bounce off of. So if you are young and you're watching this video, go get tested, man. Why not? That way you know where you're at. So when you're 20, you know where you're at. When you're 30, you know where you're at. When you're 60, you know where you're at. And if you need something to help you, you know where to go and you know what to do. So that's something that I wish I would have done earlier, but I didn't know about this. I didn't know. I guess everything's coming to light over the past few years of like how much stuff is in our water and just the chemicals that we consume daily that we don't realize. Right. And that's why I talk so much about ingredients. Like a lot of people say that they'll live and die by their artificial ingredients that they ingest every day by taking these supplements from supplement companies. I'm like, well, that might be doing you more harm than good. And then people are like, well, I don't care. I take it anyways. I'm like, the long run, what are you looking like in 10, 15 years from now from taking that stuff? So I am obviously a living, I don't know what the term is, but you're looking at a guy. I'm a living testimony. So I guess let's talk about what we can do to get this up as naturally as possible. So I guess take it away.
Let me kind of explain this. And if you remember the last time, we kind of talked about the difference between restoration and replacement, okay? So your testosterone level is 312 right now. This is the hypothalamus, a little center in our brain that communicates with the anterior pituitary gland. And that gland is what produces two hormones, LH, which is luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, which is FSH. FSH really kind of stimulates what's called the Sertoli cells in the testicle, and that produces sperm. So spermatogenesis occurs here. Luteinizing hormone stimulates the Leydig cell in the testicle, and that's really what produces testosterone, okay? But when you give somebody testosterone, so if we call it TRT, that creates a feedback inhibition. And so what happens is, I'm just going to use easy numbers, but let's say your testosterone level goes from 312 to 800, okay? So you now have this feedback inhibition, and that's going to downregulate your body's endogenous production, because your body's it's pretty smart. It says, hey, my level went from 312 to 800. I don't need to try to work this system very hard. So it downregulates your gonadotropin releasing hormone, so GnRH up here, which then downregulates your stimulation of your pituitary, and then your LH and your FSH go down. So most of the time it'll be like 0.3 and 0.4, whereas right now they're 2 and 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now, guess what? You're going to have less stimulation to your testicle from this system to produce testosterone, okay? Well, that's okay for people who are, beyond childbearing years, where it's like, hey, I don't want any more kids. So you're in your 40s, 50s, whatnot. Because the other thing that's going to happen here is it's going to decrease your sperm count. And so that's where the fertility concern comes in with replacement therapy, okay? Now with restoration therapy, you actually work above this axis. So if you think testosterone is replacing the testicles' response or production, so it's on this part of the axis, restoration therapy is above. And so you can actually stimulate your body's production of testosterone through HCG, which is a luteinizing hormone analog or synergistic effect. So guess what? So now, instead of having decreased signal to your testicle, I increase that. So now I make this go from 2, where it is now, it may be 9 or 10, something like that, right? Yeah. So we elevate your LH. And then you can also consider what's called a selective estrogen receptor modulator, or something like clomiphene or enclomiphene. So most people have heard of Clomid, which is the trade name, but I use enclomiphene a lot. Enclomiphene is the generic form of one of those medications, and it basically it blocks the receptor, so it modulates that receptor, and it makes your body think, I need to produce more testosterone, okay, through this selective estrogen receptor. So by blocking that receptor of estrogen, it actually works to our advantage for testosterone. So on the SERM, it actually increases production of gonadotropin releasing hormone. So now I get more stimulation both again to my LH and FSH, so these are going to both come up. So now I get increased FSH and LH, which also increases my sperm count. And you can still typically get a testosterone level, 700, 800. I mean, yeah. It is much easier, to be honest with you, much easier to manipulate by replacement, right? You can make, the levels kind of move around a lot easier, because this system you are still kind of the rate limiting factor, right? How does your body respond to the medications? Because I still need your production to occur from the testicle. Whereas with replacement therapy, I'm hijacking that system. I'm saying, I don't really need your body to do much at all. We're gonna, because it can't, like in my age group where you start to decline, I could stimulate the testicle function in a 50-year-old, but I'm probably not going to see a great response, because it's the diminished testicular function that got them in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Somebody your age should be able to respond pretty well to something like a restoration therapy. And you could do, you don't have to do both of those. You can do one or the other. Some people will start with just doing one and seeing if that works. This is a capsule, and this is a shot. And so this is an injectable that somebody does twice a week. And this one you can do somewhere between 3 times a week to 5 days a week, 7 days a week. It kind of depends.
I sent one guy in here, and he was talking about a cream.
Uh-huh.
What is that about?
Well, that was probably testosterone, but it was a
So it was a plant derived?
Yeah. So testosterone comes in two forms that we use. I mean, it comes in more, but you've got injections, right? So that's like cypionate. That's a common one, or enanthate, stuff like that. And then you have more bioidentical. So these are kind of, derived from more plant-based, like wild yams, things like that. Testosterone cream. And they get great results. Honestly, a lot of people, if they're consistent with the cream, it works really well. The biggest difference is this may be 1 to 2 injections a week. This is twice, so 2 times a day. So compliance, right? I mean, how many people can I get to put something on twice a day? That's a dilemma, right? But for the person who does it consistently, it works well. I mean, it really does.
So that's not the replacement?
No, it is replacement.
Oh,
Yeah,
it is?
yeah. This would be replacement. So replacement would be one of those.
So we got replacement, and what was the other term?
And then restoration.
Restoration.
Yeah, so restoration would be the HCG. Well, so HCG and or N-clomiphene. Right? And truth be told, you can do hybrids. You can, if I've got somebody who's like, well, I don't really know if I want more kids, I'm not sure. They may elect to do testosterone cypionate with a little bit of N-clomiphene, so you can, but if hey, absolutely, we want to have 2 more kids, 3 more kids, another kid, whatever. I want to protect that. I generally am going to say, if you have to do medication to elevate your testosterone level, this would be the place, right? Now, the thing you've got to know is, from a diagnosis standpoint, even though we're kind of talking about these options, diagnostically, you do not have testosterone problems, diagnostically. So I need to make this clear. You have to have 2 separate lab tests below 264 an early draw for the ability to diagnose somebody with primary hypogonadism, or failure of the testicle to produce it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this would not necessarily meet that criteria of hypogonadism based off of the parameters that are there.
So for me, obviously, we're still in the early ages. We want more kids. Obviously, the TRT is definitely not the way to go for me.
Right.
So it'd be restoration. And to be perfectly clear, the main reason I'm looking at any of this is because, one, I kind of feel like throughout the day, every now and then, that I could have a little bit of an extra push. And that's what testosterone does, is push you through times where you don't want to be pushed. And especially in the gym. What I do, if I wasn't a personal trainer, actually, I probably still would be looking at this, but if I wasn't a personal trainer, it probably wouldn't be on the top of my priority list right now with this number. But for what I do every day, I feel like I need higher testosterone. Sure. So with that being said, what route do we take to where... So if I were to do something like this, what does that look like? I know you said it's like, is it like shots?
Yeah, so if somebody does restoration therapy, it would be, you would do a protocol, something like this. It would be HCG 2 times a week. So let's say Tuesday, Thursday, right? So you do small insulin syringe injections. They do them in their stomach, so they just, at home. So we show them how to do that. HCG has to be refrigerated, so it's kind of a fragile medication. But they could do 2 injections of that a week. A lot of times when I first start somebody, because I'm a big believer in, if we can get really good results with low dosing, then we should. So most of the time I'll do a Tuesday, Thursday protocol with HCG, and then I will add N-clomiphene, and I may do 50 milligrams or 25 milligrams Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So now they've got something 5 days a week, take the weekends off, right? And then I usually repeat labs 6 weeks in. All right, Now, where are we? What kind of changes did we see? Did this, I'll use yours as an example. Did it go from 300 to 800 or 300 to 600 and how do you feel, right? And so we'll kind of go through those questions and then we'll decide, hey, that looks like it's money, or you know what, that looks like it's, too much, too little, what have you, based off of what the labs show.
So is this something I would have to do for the rest of my life?
Not necessarily.
To keep my numbers.
Yeah, not necessarily, especially with restoration, because all you're trying to do is ramp up this system.
Okay.
Now, yes, I mean with testosterone, people can come off of it, but it's kind of a cruel and unusual punishment, right? They're like, whoa. So this is a little different, So some people, they may do this for 3 months, 6 months. See, hey, if I do this consistently, can I get my body kind of, revved up to the point where it's working a little bit more effectively?
So analogy, so it's like an old car with a carburetor, and you got to spray some little.
Could be, yeah.
Just to get.
But the beauty of this protocol is when you come off of it, it's not because we didn't hijack this, right? With testosterone, you just shut this system down. We just revved this up and made it work more efficiently. So when somebody weans off of this, it's a much easier transition back to the natural.
So
production.
No, despite anything, if I were to come off this, I would probably drop back down here.
Maybe not as low, maybe. I mean, we would only know by trying, you know what I mean? But instead of it being like, so like if somebody comes off testosterone, if this is day 0 and this is day 45, right? And let's say their testosterone level is 800 when they stopped. At day 21, it's going to be 6.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And then it kind of comes back up to whatever your natural process, but it's a sharp decline because it takes this system a little bit of time to figure that out.
So what would this look like if you were doing the restoration?
Versus restoration would be more like this. And who knows where, we don't know where that would, but it would be a gradual decline because these hormones would start to gradually, it would go from 9 to 7, you see what I'm saying? And then we would see like, okay, do you kind of end up hovering around 300 again, or does somebody hover around 400, 500? But it's an easier one to ramp up and ramp off.
Okay. Now, with me specifically, what do you think you would see if I were to do something like this, sitting here right now? Where do you think I would end up?
This would be honestly, that's why I put those numbers there. I think that would be a pretty reasonable place for somebody to see from this protocol.
And considering that I'm here now, I probably have always been in this range.
Yeah.
What will I feel if I get to this point? Right
So
now?
within a few weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes it does take a little bit longer for this versus testosterone. Most of the time it's a little quicker as far as you're feeling. But when you do this, it may be within a few weeks where it's like, okay, increased motivation, increased drive, increased energy, increased focus, increased sex drive. Right? As time goes on, when it comes to what data shows, lean muscle development, recovery. So I actually recover better from workouts. So there's but the physical aspect of it generally is going to take longer. I mean, it's the mental capacity and changes happens much faster than the physical.
Okay. So what's the next step to going this route right here?
So if somebody does this protocol, we charge $239 a month, and then we provide our concierge package. Basically, provides medication, supplies, lab costs. So we take care of all the labs and follow up, and then that also includes your office visits. And then we have medications shipped to you. We get it, directly to you. We ship you a 3-month supply, and then we schedule labs to be done 6 weeks down the road. And then we do labs every 6 weeks until we're happy. Now, if that's right out of the gates, fine. Once we feel like we're where we want to be, then I have you do labs every 3 months. And I'm a pretty big stickler on that. I think that's really important to kind of follow labs.
A lot of kids on TikTok talk about ERT and all this stuff. Obviously, they're getting it from the GNC or whatever. So that's going to be like this. But how dangerous is it for a teenager, to be taking stuff like this at a young age?
Well, it's not so much dangerous. I think you just got to weigh your cost in the sense that you're going to suppress your system, right? So most 19-year-old boys who want to get jacked in the gym aren't thinking about fertility, right?
Yeah.
So, and I get these consults all the time, and I'm totally fine with seeing those kids because I've got 5 children, so like fertility matters. Because I feel like I can be a voice of reasoning. Say, okay, let's think about what you're after, what you're trying to do. Are there other things that you can do from a natural standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint? So yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm also obviously not a big fan of black market. We do a lot of harm reduction therapy here. So we take patients who are willing to come in and say, look, I've been doing this stuff, you know, on the black market, and we kind of get them squared away, get them, you know, stabled out. And I think that's important for people to have a place that they can do that. But I'll give you an example. I had a guy not long ago who came in and he said, hey, I just want to be transparent. I've taken 600 milligrams of testosterone a week. That's a lot of testosterone. I've been doing it for the past 6 months. My levels are probably going to be, you know, through the roof, right? And he was just saying, he's like, but I haven't felt anything. Like, I don't know. Like, well, his testosterone level was 180. So guess what? He's not taking testosterone, right? He's getting it black market. Who knows what he's taking, but he ain't. So that's the other thing you do have to think about, like, what risk, right?
Yeah.
When you're 19, you think, I'm invincible. I can take whatever. Well, you don't know that you're actually, and I mean, this is recent. I mean, it's not a story I read about. This guy was in my office, you know?
Okay. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
The story. So I guess now we just got to figure out what I need to do, where I need to go. And then once we leave here, we're going to go over to Nutrition Factory, hop on the InBody scanner and see if anything has changed there. And then we'll figure out what we got to do.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm here at Nutrition Factory. We're going to hop on the InBody scanner, see if I have any differences from the last time to now from my workout program. Obviously, the testosterone didn't change, so we'll check this out, compare the results. Okay, take off these shoes and socks. Now I gotta go get my other sheet, go outside, compare the two. We're gonna get some creatine real quick, get that, and then we're out. Okay, so I have my old paper and my new paper. So I took this, where's the date? So these are about a month apart, month and a half apart, at least that is what I think. But anyways, so the main thing I'm looking at on these papers are obviously the weight. I went from eating like 2,000 calories a day to like 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. So I was at 174, now I'm at 181, really 182. Skeletal muscle mass was 88.6, now I'm at 89.7, so almost at 90, so almost 2 points up on that. Body fat mass was 20.8, now it's 26.5. So me not doing any cardio and eating a lot in a surplus is definitely put body fat on, but I expected that. Let's see right here. So total body weight or body water weight was 112, now it's 113. Lean body mass was 153.4, now it's 155.4. And weight 174 and 181. So we've gone up a lot. Prior to this, my trunk was 11 pounds. 11 pounds on the trunk. Now my trunk is almost 15 pounds, which is insane. Like, I've gone up in everything, and this is just, that's insane. So body fat in my left arm is going up, trunk is going up, right leg. With this information, I'm going to continue doing what I've been doing, trying to put on muscle, because you can't build a physique without putting on fat and putting on muscle. Continue to build, put on some more fat, put on muscle until January. January, I'm going to drop my calories, I'm going to go freaking hard in the gym, I'm going to box, I'm going to do all the things, and then we're going to start to drop the weight. But this is an experiment I'm doing on myself. The whole goal of this was to boost my testosterone, and that did not happen. It is what it is. You can't outweigh, like he said, 6 weeks and then 10 years worth of damage. Probably more than 10 years worth of damage. I did not eat healthy at all as a child, at all. So we're gonna keep on doing what we're doing, keep bulking, keep putting weight on, and then in January, we're gonna cut it off. So be sure to click that follow button, share the page, share this with a friend that you may think have low testosterone. Everybody that I sent out to get their testosterone tested that's in their 20s have had low testosterone. It's blowing my freaking mind right now. We're being poisoned. So stay tuned and see if we can change any of this. All right? Gonna get shredded? Peace out.